Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, For Justice listeners. This is Justice Journalist. I'd like to welcome you to our special show tonight. We have here with us online Author Neely Fuller Jr. He has written an excellent book, and it's called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. It's a textbook or workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. So I'd like to issue a warm welcome to writer-advocate Neely Fuller Jr. How are you tonight, Mr. Fuller?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, you have made the rounds here at Blog Talk and a number of other online radio programs. And for those of our listeners who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I basically talk about myself based on the textbook that I've written, because I think that's the most important thing to the extent that it would be. And I started writing a book about racism starting about 1957 because I considered racism to be the most important problem in the world, and that because of that one problem, all other problems became more difficult to solve. I think that racism is the biggest problem on the planet, between the people of this planet. And I have said, and I say in a book that I've written, starting with 1957, and over a period of time, I finally got it packaged in a book that came out in 1984. I've used that as a basic textbook for my ideas on what I consider to be the major problem on the planet. And in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. I think that covers just about everything that people do on the entire planet, or that they're involved in. I call it the 9 major areas of people activity, because people are active all the time, and they're active in all of these 9 areas of activity in one form or another, either directly or indirectly. and they interact with each other within those frames of references. But all of these frames of references interact one to another. What happens in the area of religion affects what happens in the area of labor. What happens in the area of labor affects what happens in the area of economics. What happens in the area of economics affects what happens in the area of sex, and on and on and on. So everything that people do has an effect on other things that people do, including the people who are doing it, as well as people who are reacting to what is done by other people. But the races, when it came to non-white people, someone thought up something called racism, and racism is all about mistreating people on the basis of color for the benefit of people who are classified as white, people who classify themselves as white, because that's one thing that white supremacists first did, based on the logical evidence. Someone thought it up at some time or another, and it became the most powerful and religious force that the world has ever seen. It is a system that gets lots of things done materially. It accomplishes a lot in a relatively short period of time in all the fields of technology. Everything that has to do with things, the system of white supremacy has proven to be very effective in getting things accomplished through the use of things and through the use of people in producing things that are of great value. But the problem with the system is, in the process of doing this, it is deliberately designed to mistreat people and to destroy people by the millions. People who are classified as non-white, because it's based on mistreatment of non-white people for the primary benefit of the enjoyment of people who are classified as white. It's a very simple formula based on the old Royalist formula, holier than thou. But it took off better than any form of royalism that the world has ever seen, any form of capitalism, any form of socialism, any form of communism. No ism, no religion has proven to be more powerful than the social material system called the system of white supremacy. Or you might even call it the religion of white supremacy, or the politics of white supremacy, because it is greater than all of it put together. And all people on the planet are either involved in it or engaged in it, rather, the practice of it, or they are reacting to someone who is. And that's the basic formula for the ideas that came to me in observations and whatnot and studies over a period of years. I first started thinking about it when I was in what is called Japan in 1957. And it was during the Little Rock crisis, Little Rock High School integration. And I was thinking of it not just within that context alone, but I was thinking of it within the context of the system of racism as a world system. Because the white supremacists, the people who believe in white supremacy, practice it 24/7, and they do so all over the world without any let-up at all. The machine has to be kept running at all times. You can't allow very many slip-ups. Every now and then, something goes awry with the machine, but not very often. Relatively speaking, it's a very smooth-running machine.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be replaced with a better system. And theoretically, and I say theoretically because it's never happened, as far as we know in recorded history, It should be replaced with a better system, and that system, logically speaking, would be a system of justice. And that system of justice would be, logically speaking, and coming up with what I call the compensatory logic, making up for the logic that's not there. It made up a definition that wasn't there for the word justice. And that definition was guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. And that's what the book called United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, textbook, workbook for victims of white supremacy is all about. That's the book that I started writing in 1957 and finally got it published in its current form in 1984. I had several loose leaf editions prior to that, but it was the last and so far. And I have seen fit to modify some things in it, but not to change anything basically, just to better explain. And I'm working on a volume that will do that. But up till that time, the volume that's out there now is the volume that I use and is still valid according to the job that, in my opinion, needs to be done.
Well, Mr. Fuller, I've read your book from cover to cover, and it is one of the best books. It is the best book on the subject. I haven't seen any other book to tackle this subject in the manner or with the thoroughness that you have done. So we've had many conversations, not just about your book, but how to apply the principles and in real world situations. Because in my opinion, when you're dealing with a situation or a subject of this nature, we can get facts and statistics. That's great information, but unless we're doing something to solve this problem, then those are just facts and statistics. What I'd like to ask you, number one, is this idea of justice. We all talk about justice. We use it in sentences or in discussions, but your idea of justice, in my mind, is the most complete and workable idea of justice. Could you say that again for our listening audience? It is making sure that people who need help will get it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's in two parts. Part one, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, because racism is about mistreatment. You can't practice racism without mistreating people on a huge scale, because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to deprive people. It's designed to kill people on a mass scale. And that's the first part of it. Justice is to guarantee that no person, white or non-white, young or old, no person is mistreated. You got to guarantee that if you're going to have justice. Second part, guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. You put those two together, and theoretically, you'll have justice. Now, justice, as far as we know, has never existed. But it can exist if people put their minds to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because justice just means that rather than starting out to say that you're going to have a system of royalism, which most systems of inconsequence started with that idea, and racism is just one of the forms that it took.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, later on. But royalism is based on a person saying, I'm just better than everybody else. And I'm not only better, I'm smarter. And even when I'm wrong, I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis for royalism. And that everybody should just listen to me, and whatever I say goes. And that's the first idea that took over. I mean, all down through the ages, people talk about kings and queens and emperors. The king can do no wrong. King is always right. The queen is always right. If the king says that your head should be chopped off because they don't like something that you said, he or she, the king or the queen, then off with your head.
Mm-hmm.
That was handed down through the ages. And then someone thought of the idea of taking the color of people and say, well, why not make large numbers of people, kings and queens, based on color? If you have a person who we will classify as white, then that person is automatically a king or a queen.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people who are not white, well, they will be who the kings and queens can kick around, do what with they see please, they see fit to do. And whoever got that idea tried it on for size, and it took off like a prairie fire. It's one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful idea.
Mm-hmm.
Greater than any religion, greater than Christianity, greater than Islam, greater than Judaism, Hinduism. So far, it is proven to be much greater than all of the religions put together, all of the philosophies put together, all of the political concepts put together. Nothing has trumped racism yet. And so you need an idea that's more powerful, and you need to apply that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And theoretically, that idea would be justice. Just the opposite from what racism.
Just the opposite. Well, it's interesting that you would mention the various religions, because in my mind, they are all infiltrated by racism. So perhaps that's why they are not as strong or do not offer a serious challenge to racism, because, I mean, if I were to look at the situation, especially in the African-American community, on Sunday I see a lot of people going to church and practicing, quote-unquote, their religion, but it seems that the religion is no match, as you have said, against racism. So there seems to be some type of disconnect.
There's a disconnect starting with the fact that people go to separate churches, but they all call themselves, if you're talking about Christianity, you have what they call a phenomena called the black church. And the Christian churches not supposed to be anything, I mean, according to what people say, as a black church, but people actually use the expression black church, black. And at the same time, people go in both of these churches. Black people go to the black church, white people go to the white church, and they all sing in the separate churches, we're all one in Christ. But they can't even sit beside each other in the same benches, in the same building, even though they're in the same world. And they all call themselves Christians. So there's a disconnect right on the surface. You'll see news headlines saying, someone is burning down the black churches. We got to put a stop to it. And the white people from the white churches will come over and help build the churches, help build the black churches. Oh, no, we don't want the black churches burned down. And I guess some of them, under their breath, might be saying, if all the black churches are burned down, the black people might still want to go to church, and they might wind up in our church. Our church.
Right. Right. Well, that then underscores the a conversation we were having the other day about people who are not really living. And I think I may have said something to you along the lines of the fact that if we are living in this system or dealing with the system and we are not confronting it, that we are not really alive. We are not participating in life to our fullest extent. Do you remember that conversation we were having?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you comment on that, on the fact that we can have what we would call a black church and a white church, and we can have people going to church and participating in various organizations, but they are not dealing with this issue of racism?
In a system of racism, you can't have anything that makes sense. You can't have any relationship between people that makes sense. That's in any area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, or war. You're going to have confusion. You're going to have distortion. You're going to have things out of balance in every one of those activities, because that's what the system of racism does. It throws people out of balance with each other. Anytime you start with a premise that you can mistreat people based on color, you can look at a person and say, that's the wrong color. And by wrong color, it means that that person is designed to be mistreated. And I'm going to carry out the mission of mistreating that person on account of that person is the wrong color. There's something wrong with that person, and what is wrong with that person is that person doesn't have the color that a person should have. So therefore, it is my job to make that person miserable as best I can in every area of activity. Now, any time you set up an entire world system based on that, everything that it does, once they come under that system, it's going to be a form of insanity. Because mistreating people based on what the Creator created them to be is a form of insanity. End of story.
Yeah, that's exactly, that's definitely the conversation that we were having. And I'd like to delve into that much further. It's not just a form of insanity in terms of the person who is subjected to the racism or to the mistreatment, but it also is a form of insanity for the individual or groups of individuals who are inflicting the racism, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So what you have is everyone is out of balance, because that's what non-justice is. People being out of balance, one with the other. And that's why I keep repeating it. In every area of activity, you can't get anything straight. I don't care how hard you try. As long as you have the system of racism, your religion is not going to amount to very much. You can talk it. You can sing it. But when you start trying to practice it, you run smack into the racists, and they say, look, what you're doing is not good for my business. My business is mistreating people. You're around here with some kind of religion saying you can't mistreat people. And if you keep doing it, you can say it, but if you start acting like you're not going to mistreat people or not going to permit people to be mistreated on a huge scale, you got a problem with me. And I will do a job on you and your religion. And the white supremacists have proven just that. They not only talk it, but they will do it. They will shut you down. They will kill you and laugh about it and tell you, I don't care what kind of religion you have, I don't know what kind of God you think you have. You're going to find out who God is if you mess with me. I'm a white supremacist, and I'll prove it to you in 2 seconds. You even got to have a license for me to get even church, so get out of my face.
Well, Mr. Fuller, then, based on what you're saying, and I've already come to this conclusion, that most people who are in these religions or in these groups and all this other stuff, they're just talking because, as you've already stated, the white supremacist is going to dare to back up what they're doing. But, a number of these religious organizations and institutions, they're primarily, it seems, distracting their members from what is really going on and what they ought to be doing in order to combat this particular problem, wouldn't you say?
It's not just even the church. It's the temples, it's the mosques, it's the synagogues. It's anybody who is saying that they're going to do anything that's going to displease the white supremacists. White supremacists will allow anyone to say anything. You can see that. You can say a lot of things. But if you do anything that looks like it's, quote, unquote, not supportive of the system of white supremacy, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Now, they'll let you do a few things, but if you're really putting the system of white supremacists in danger, the white supremacists will let you know it. They'll say, practice any part of your religion you want, as long as it doesn't damage my business. Now, if I say that part of my business is to have a lot of people killed, you better not set up no religion that looks like it's going to interfere with me killing people, because I will kill you and put you and your church business, your mosque business, your synagogue business, whatever business you're in, out of business, and I will do it in 15 minutes. It won't take me a long time, because I am the master of everything. And you want to talk about God? Yes, I too believe in God, but I believe that I am the representative.
Yeah, I didn't.
You can't get to your God without coming through me. That's the voice of the white supremacists.
Yeah, I didn't mean to.
You better come through me.
I didn't mean to make it sound as if I was just talking about, just a particular.
Yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Right.
As a matter of fact,
I just wanted to make that broad point.
As a matter of fact,
nobody escapes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I would argue that a lot of these quote unquote religions are, in fact, the representatives of white supremacy, because it seems as if a lot of killing of non-white persons is actually being sanctioned through these religions.
Well, it's because, it's just one religion that really counts, and that is the religion of white supremacy. All of the other people are tempted to practice their religion. Most people who have a religion are very, very sincere, and they prove it by their actions and whatnot, up until the time that the white supremacists step forward and say, well, now, you can practice this part of your religion. If you want to have a picnic or something like that, I don't mind that. If you want to clap your hands or you want to sing and whatnot, I don't mind that. Just help yourself. That's not bad for my business. But if I want to kill people and all like that, you better not start saying, thou shalt not kill, and then start interfering with me while I'm doing my, or I will kill you. And they have proven that they will do that. And people fear that. And they let people know. Now, you can have as many gods as you want. But when I tell you to do something, you better jump like I'm your God. Because for all practical purposes, I am. Now, you might have a God in heaven, but I'm the one who rules you on this planet. So you can sing about after you're dead all you want to. Just don't mess with me while we're both walking around on the same planet, because this is my planet. You don't own none of it. And you don't have anybody anywhere in the spiritual world or the material world that can help you when I get on your case. And most people, so far, have backed down when the voice of the white supremacists come into the picture. And some of them haven't backed down, and most of them who didn't back down are dead.
So, Mr. Fuller, that being the case, then why would you write this type of book? Is it just to understand what the issue is? Is it to try to motivate people to see what's going on so that they can counter racism?
Absolutely. Right now, for years, many, particularly the Christian churches, have said that, there are certain types of sexual arrangements that people should have. But when the white supremacists lately have decided, I make the sexual arrangements. If I have decided there's not going to be any such thing as gender, I'm going to abolish gender so that everything is everything, and anything that anybody does is whatever I say that they can do. I don't care from whatever book you got. You bet not mess with my agenda. And now they're dealing with, all kinds of confusion now.
Right.
Because the first thing that a white supremacist does when they really want to get people under their thumb in a lockdown fashion is cause confusion.
Mm-hmm.
You can always dominate people when you have them confused, particularly when you confuse them about what they think they believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk and talk and talk and say, well, I don't know about that. I'll have to look into it. And the white supremacists say, you don't have to look into anything. You better do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll let you tinker with it for a while, but, once I speak, that's it. In fact, some years ago, I wouldn't say that the person is a white supremacist because I can't say that under code logic unless the person admits that they're one. That's part of the code because I can't prove it. I have nobody to prove it by. But a person once said, who was classified as white, he said, and I'll say it just the way that he said it, said this race problem is really not all that controversial. He says people just make it that way. He says let's look at it the way that it really should be and the way that it is and the way that it ought to be. He says God made the white man to serve God. And then God made the nigger to serve the white man. And if everybody just stops talking and fall in line behind that philosophy, everything will be fine. Now, on the surface, some people might say, that sounds reasonable. But then, if you follow the logic, it doesn't. Because of several elements, maybe more. But there's one that stands out. The white supremacists lie repeatedly. They say things that are not true. Now, if you are ordained to be the ruler in the natural order of things, ordained by God, why would you go around telling people things that are not true?
Mm-hmm.
Since everything is in its natural order, you don't have to lie. You don't have to lie to anybody.
Well, the mistreatment doesn't make sense either.
See, from a lie will come.
Exactly.
The only reason for anybody ever telling anybody a lie, you better believe mistreatment is coming right behind it. But the white supremacists thrive on confusion based on lying. See, because you have to lie to cause confusion. You have to say things that are not true. That is the best and fastest way to confuse people that there is. Start saying things that are not true. Mm-hmm. Having people go east when, the storm is, in the east. You should have told them to go west. You know what I mean? Or vice versa, whatever the scenario would be. You're telling people to go into danger, but you are not telling them that there's danger in the road that they're going down. You're telling them that there's paradise. See, now that's not true. Mm-hmm. If the case is, you already know advance. They're heading for the edge of the cliff in the dark. They're going 90 miles an hour, and the bridge is no longer there. And they are driving at night, and they're going right off that cliff, right into what used to be a bridge. And they'll be in midair before they realize they're not on a bridge, but they're sailing in space. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be dead shortly when they hit the bottom of that canyon. Now, that's the white supremacists. Mm-hmm. They say things like this all the time. They give beautiful words because a deceiver is expert at that, an arch deceiver. And they'll tell you, hey, you follow my instructions now, and everything is going to be great. And sometimes they're heading you right into danger that they have finally crafted and tailored the danger in advance.
In advance, that's right.
And they know, and they after telling you, yes, you go down there and turn to the right and just keep going. No speed limit. And then when they see your tail lights going off and you turn to the right, they turn to another one like them, and they both have a big joke about it. They say, now listen real carefully, because we're going to hear a whale of an explosion in a real little while. That's what we're going to hear. Because I just sent that person in the wrong direction. They're going at top speed, and they're going to run into a brick wall. And they'll be right up on it before they see it, but it'll be too late. And they do this repeatedly. They do this in politics.
It's in the system.
Do this in everything.
It's inherent in the system. I was just speaking with a gentleman who is going to be on an upcoming show. We have had a series on the EEOC and the fact that an investigator with them has blown the whistle and is saying that they have repeatedly dismissed the majority of complaints by African Americans and foreign-born blacks. And this gentleman who I talked with today, who is of Hispanic descent, has, in our conversation, he talked about believing the laws that are in place and going to them thinking that they were going to enforce the laws, which is, what everyone thinks that is going to an organization, a federal government organization, that has been established to enforce our laws and our Constitution. However, once you go down the Primrose path and you think you're following all the procedures correctly and doing what you're supposed to do, then they pull the rug out from under you. And they do not adhere to their part of the bargain or their job, which is to uphold these laws. And what is unfortunate is that so many people have gone down this particular road and have not joined together based on the fact that these lies have been perpetrated.
It's the same old formula. Now you see it, now you don't. Speak with forked tongue. Say one thing, do another. Very simple formula. They do it all the time. That's how they stay in business. Say one thing, do another. Oh, when they talk, they can talk and talk and talk and be very convincing. You couldn't dominate millions and millions of people for eons without being a great talker, great communicator. And come among people like the history books. Not my history books. I didn't write them. These are things that were taught to me. People like Mr. Cortez, who met Mr. Montezuma and sat down and talked to him. Mr. Cortez, according to all the history books that I read, only had a handful of people with him. Didn't need a lot of people. But he was a great talker. And at several occasions, Montezuma, who was a person you would classify, I suppose, at the time as non-white, Mr. Cortez at the time was considered to be a great European white. And he made all kinds of propositions repeatedly, according to the records that I have read and the TV programs I've seen on the story of Cortez, the explorer. And he sat down with Mr. Montezuma on many occasions. When Mr. Montezuma, I understand, threatened to kill him on several occasions because he was so incensed at all of the confusion that was going on among the large number of people that he was the administrator or ruler or whatever you want to call him over. Now, he may have been doing some things he shouldn't have been done, mostly, I guess, out of ignorance and all like that, but Cortez was certainly no help. But every now and then, there would be an argument between the two, according to what I've read, and Mr. Cortez would simply say, now, look here, Monty, you got it all wrong. Tell you what I'm going to do. And just like a snake oil salesman, he would sit down and talk. And he would sound convincing. And the things that he would say made sense as far as talk is concerned. When it came to the doing part, like all the other tribes, not just in that era of the world, in what we now call Mexico and Latin America and whatnot, but everywhere that the white supremacists encountered, or the people who were white supremacist suspects, certainly by their deeds, everywhere they went, they got to be known for the forked tongue. Say one thing, do another. Promise them everything, and give them nothing but death. So the modern-day white supremacists are no different. That's why they have been successful, because they're really good at it, because they have had plenty of practice.
Why are we unsuccessful then, in your opinion, Mr. Fuller? Why are people who, and I'm going to say who purport or who claim to be against racism and white supremacy, why have these people not been successful in stemming the system of white supremacy, in your opinion?
One of the first statements made in the book that I've written, Textbook for Victims of Racism, right on the front, is a statement. If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. Underline confuse. And that's the reason. People don't understand it. A lot of people think that a white supremacist is a guy, a white man, sometimes a white woman, wearing swastikas and carrying what we call rebel flags and painted on the side of a pickup truck. And every black person they pass, they yell out and call them some type of name and threaten to kill them. And it's probably 5 people in the truck. And lots of black people think that that's the gist of white supremacy. And outside of that, there is no such thing as white supremacy. And it's not true. The white supremacists, for the most part, are very smooth-talking people who would never call a black person any kind of name other than Mr. and Mrs. And any other title that, right. Because black people are so
sensitive about that,
so sensitive and so in need of being validated.
That's
black
right.
people love titles. So sometimes the white supremacists will say, "Whoa, you need a title? Well, I got buckets of titles. Go back there in my stock room and list it under titles and see how many you can find. There should be boxes of them back there. Just pick up any boxes of them that you want. Take a whole box. You want to be known as kings and queens and lords and ladies, and doctors and lawyers and attorneys, and just pick out anything. Reverend. I give you all the reverends you want. How many do you want? You want them in big letters or small? I'll give you people all the titles that you want.
But there won't be no justice, right?
What I won't do is hardly let you breathe, but you'll have plenty of titles while you're gasping for breath.
Right.
on my planet.
Right. And jobs and cars, electronics and all these other things that we think are so important. But
well, we'll let a few of you play with toys, because that's what these things are. You jump in your little car and you go speeding down the road. You don't know where you're going, because wherever you're going, I'll be at the end of the road anyway. And if there's anything worth having, wherever you're going, I'll be in charge of it, so I don't worry about that. That's why I gave you the car in the first place, so you can speed to one of my other locations, because all locations belong to me. That's why I'm supreme. See, now once you ask the question, why do the victims think the way we do? Because we've been trained to think the way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
But we think that we trained ourselves, and that is a pitiful shame.
Well, also we think we're educated.
We have to admit to ourselves that we don't even know why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
But once we understand that we don't know why we do what we do and that we are being orchestrated and manipulated, then that's a whole other world altogether.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the only time you can really see what's going on, when you admit that everything. There's a video on YouTube where this gentleman, I think his name is Lloyd Pye, and he's talking about a theory that he has, that there has been genetic manipulation of human beings by some outside source. It's very interesting if anybody would ever take the time to go and take a look at that. But he has termed the series of videos, Everything You Think You Know Is Wrong. And I think it's an excellent title, and it pertains to this subject because, for example, I was on on Facebook today, having a conversation or back and forth with someone who was saying that they thought that, our problem is our kids don't know how to read, and that they need to start out with those basics. And that's why we're having a lot of problems that we're having as a community. And I sent a note back saying, that's not the only problem that we have. I said the problem that we have is we don't know how to basically think. A lot of our attorneys and doctors and lawyers can read, but we still have racism to contend with. So there's a disconnect.
Yes. Yes, it has the effect. Everybody's affected by it. It has the effect that it's designed to have. Now, we need a better system, and that is to concentrate, first of all, to use what we were given called logic. Logic came with the universe. That's why it's dangerous to put all of your faith in a person, in the form of what is called a leader. A leader should never be in the form of a person. A spokesperson can be in the form of a person. I'm a spokesperson. What is a spokesperson? A person that speaks. So everybody can speak. Everybody who can speak, including people who have lost the ability to speak, they might be able to write and make sign language, which is speaking. So everybody should speak and try to speak based on what? Logic. Logic is the thing that you try to follow, because logic came with the universe. It's a logical reason for not following people. That reason is there's never been a person other than some of the people who are called the deity in the flesh, and lots of people argue about that, but I won't, because I don't know I don't know enough to argue about it. So I'll leave that alone. But it's been my experience, and I think it's the experience of most people, that everybody that they have ever encountered, and they will tell the truth about it, has made at some time some kind of mistake. So if you adopt a person as your leader, and that person makes a mistake, you will make the same mistake that person made. That's just a logical consequence. So no person should even ask people to follow him or her without making that qualification, without announcing. Now, along this journey, I may make some errors because we are all mistake-prone. And if you see me making what you think is an error, call it to my attention. Now, that's being honest and upfront. But any time a person says, I'm mistake-proof, therefore I want everybody to follow me because I'm always right about everything. There's nothing that I don't know. I am not ignorant about anything. I know everything. That person is not only not telling the truth based on evidence, but the person is dangerous. Because even if a person is extremely smart, the person, if you're following that person, the person is following logic. So each person can follow logic on his or her own. And that's the best way to, I'm saying this for a reason, that's the best way to combat racism or any other form of non-constructive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to follow logic. Now, what is logic? Logic is, there's two forms of logic, two types of logic. One is produces a constructive result. When you do certain things, you get a constructive result. And when you do something, you're using logic anytime you're doing it. The other form of logic is you get a non-constructive result. And that's how you know whether logic is being used for a constructive or non-constructive purpose. There's nothing in between. Every move that a person makes any time of day or night is either going to have a constructive result or a non-constructive result. If you sit down and eat a meal, that's going to produce a constructive result or a non-constructive result because there's something going on in your body after you eat. And it will have a non-constructive result or a constructive result. If it has an intensely non-constructive result, you'll get sick. So that's a signal that something was in error about the food, or it was not really food because it was incompatible with your body. Now, people like the white supremacists, they will go to the extreme. They will go and tell a whole bunch of black people, a lot of black people brag about it and glory in it and sing songs about it. What your body needs is a good dose of cocaine or heroin, and you will feel great. And many black people, non-white people throughout the world say, yes, it'll make me feel great. That's for me. And pick it up immediately. And the white supremacist says, yes, and I'm the source of it, so. What that means is I can do quite well in what I intend to do, which is destroy you, and sit and watch you destroy yourself with my blessing.
Right. And I profit from it, as a matter of fact. I make money off of it.
Yes. I mean, in other words, it's a win. I don't set up situations. The white supremacist mind is I don't produce a situation where I am not a winner, regardless of what happens. It's a win-win situation for me, regardless of which way the wind blows. And anytime I get in the midst of non-white people, I charm them with nonsense. And they go for it because they are very susceptible, and they will embrace anything that looks like it's crazy because they're so starved for any kind of attention.
Do you think it's just attention, or what about fear? And I have another question, based on that answer. Is it attention or fear?
A combination of both. For one thing, they fear the unknown, like most people do. When people know something about anything, when you know how to handle a rattlesnake, you don't fear that rattlesnake. Why? Because you have knowledge of how that rattlesnake operates, and you know how just when it poises to strike. I'll give that as the illustration. And it has to do with knowledge. Knowledge erases. Knowledge and understanding erases fear. Anytime you have fear, it means you don't know what to do. If you fear fire, if you run from fire, it means you don't know what to do other than run, because you've never seen a fire before. You came near it, and you felt a sensation that felt unpleasant the closer you got. And when you got real close, you probably got singed a little bit. So then you might, in a panic, just take off and just run and run and run and don't stop running. Because you don't know what that is. You just know that it's something you don't understand. But if you understand fire, then you can control it. You make fire work for you. You can take fire and help you to make some type of metal into steel. You're standing right there. But you know not to let the fire get out of control, out of your control, because you know the behavior of fire. You know that water will put out fire. You know that if you throw gasoline on that fire, you better jump back, because gasoline and water look a lot alike, but they're not alike. One will enhance the fire. The gasoline will. The water will put out the fire. So you have to know something about fire in order to deal with fire. And it's the same way with anything else in the universe. When you don't have knowledge and understanding of it, you will fear it. Now, the white supremacists do not fear black people. At one time, they may have. But the white supremacists have absolutely no fear of non-white people, because they completely understand us. But we are looking possibly at white supremacists every day, and we understand nothing about them. Not anything. Zero. And that's why they're successful and we're not.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have only 2 more minutes remaining. I didn't even get a chance to take a break. I was so engrossed in, as I always am when I speak with you, Mr. Fuller, about your analysis of this this pervasive problem and this pervasive system. I would like to invite you to come on again to talk some more about your book. I don't think 1 hour segment is enough. So I extend that invitation to you as well as to our listeners to join us perhaps in another episode with Mr. Fuller as he talks about his book, the United Compensatory Code.
Code, system, concept.
On racism. Thank you all, and thank you again, Mr. Fuller, for joining us.
You can give out my phone number to people whenever you see fit to do so, and let them know that my book is available to them through me.
That is correct. Listeners who, as a matter of fact, I'll put it up on my Facebook page. I've already put up the fact that we're going to have this interview tonight, and I'd also like you to give out the information about your show on Talktainment in this last remaining minute.
Yes, that's talktainmentradio.com on Mondays, Eastern Standard Time. Mondays, Eastern Standard Time, 7 to 8 p.m. That's talktainmentradio.com, Internet radio, talktainmentradio.com. 7 to 8 p.m., Mondays only. No holidays. Mondays only. Thank you very much.
As always, it's been a pleasure, Mr. Fuller. I'd like to thank our 4 Justice listeners, and I'd like to encourage you to listen to Mr. Fuller and to purchase his book.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.